I'll kick your arse into shredded duck." He slammed the phone down. "Was it him?" Rodney asked, his hopes crumbling. It was Mickey, Del sighed, the ultimate wind-up. He looked at his family, his brother, his wife, his son. They were all there. They were broke, they were bankrupt, and they were the laughing stock of the borough. But as Del looked out the window at the rain-slicked streets of Peckham, he felt a familiar warmth in his chest. "Don't worry," he said, putting an arm around Rodney. "This time next year, we'll be millionaires." "We were millionaires last week," Rodney cried. "Details, Rodney," Del said, a grin finally breaking through. "Just details. Now, get your suit on. We've got a suitcase to fetch from the van. I've heard a rumor about a consignment of digital organizers. They're vibrant, Rodney. Pure raison d'etre." As the credits rolled in his mind, Derek Trotter knew one thing for certain. As long as there was a deal to be made and a brother to wind up, the Peckham Phoenix would always find a way to fly. Epilogue: the trading continues. The yellow Capri Gia roared well, sputtered to life the following morning. The new management sign was slightly crooked, but it was there. They hadn't won the gold, but they still had the lead. And in the world of the Trotters, lead could always be sold as silver if you found the right buyer. "Cushty," Del whispered, shifting into gear. "Absolutely cushty. The Trotter Legacy. Book 1, The Midas Touch in Reverse. Chapter 1, The Man in the High Office." The leather in Justin's office didn't just smell of money, it smelled of the kind of ancient, inherited wealth that made Del Boy's designer suits feel like they were still on the rack at Romford Market. Derek Del Boy Trotter sat in the plush armchair, his fingers twitching toward a cigar he knew he shouldn't light. Beside him, Rodney the younger, lankier, and perpetually more anxious brother looked as though he were awaiting a terminal diagnosis rather than a business interview. "I'll fetch the suitcase from the van," Del had joked earlier, a reflex from the days when the suitcase was their entire world. But now, the suitcase was a relic of a past life. They were men of substance now, or, at least, they were supposed to be. Justin, a man whose skin looked like it had been buffed by professional grade of silk, leaned forward. His eyes were sharp, scanning the two brothers from Peckham like a scientist examining a strange new species of beetle. "I've got the basic details," Justin began, his voice a smooth baritone that echoed off the mahogany walls. "Your business career, the various enterprises. But I want to get an insight into the real you. How you started, how you became so successful, your raison d'etre." Rodney winced at the French. He glanced at Del. "Oh, no," Del whispered, leaning toward Rodney. "Laboratory Garney." "It's raison d'etre, Del," Rodney hissed back. "It means reason for being." "I know what it means, Rodney. I'm just being cosmopolitan," Del snapped, before turning back to Justin with a smile that could sell ice to a penguin and then charge extra for the stick. Well, Justin, where shall I start? A few years ago, we were just ordinary blokes, working class heroes, if you will, living the dream in a high-rise in Peckham. Dill's mind drifted back. He remembered the smell of the market, the roar of the three-wheeled van, and the constant, nagging feeling that this time next year was a destination that kept moving further away. Then came the watch, the Harrison Lesser watch, a small piece of ticking history that had turned to market traders into multimillionaires overnight. We discovered an artifact, Dell said, his voice dropping into a reverie, an almost priceless piece of British horology. At first, Rodney here being the philanthropist he is, wanted to give it to the British Museum. A gift to the nation, he said. Rodney looked at the ceiling. I never said that, Dell. You did, Rodney. In your heart, you did. But eventually, we decided to flog it. 6.5 million pounds. It was a number that still made Dill's head spin. They had divvied it up. In short, Uncle Albert had a nice little drink to see him through his twilight years, and then they had looked to the future. We sought professional advice, Dell continued, his chest swelling. A city stockbroker, he pointed us toward a vibrant venture, the Central American market. Rodney let out a long, slow breath. The Central American market. It had sounded so exotic. It had felt like the ultimate nice little earner. But the tides of the sea, as Dell often mused, were as unpredictable as a Peckham election. Chapter 2. The Gilded Fall. The transition from the penthouses of London to the sun-drenched shores of Barbados had been seamless. For a while, the Trotters lived like royalty. There was Raquel, Dill's significant other, the woman who had stood by him when he was selling hooky watches and now wore diamonds that could blind a pilot. There was Cassandra, Rodney's wife, whose patience was perhaps the only thing more substantial than their bank balance. And there was Damien, the son Dell worshipped, the boy who would never have to know the weight of a suitcase. But even in paradise, the ghosts of Peckham lingered. We took the family everywhere, Dell told Justin, his eyes shining with a mix of pride and a lingering grief he couldn't quite name. Business trips to the Caribbean, luxury hotels. We were making more money than the Royal Mint. But we weren't. We weren't just about the cash. We were about the style. He remembered the swimming pools, the champagne, the sense that they were finally, truly, untouchable. And then the news hit. It was like the changing of the seasons. One day it was summer, and the next, the world was frozen. The negotiations in Central America had collapsed. The vibrant venture turned out to be a house of cards built on shifting sands. The internet, that invisible web Dell only half understood, had carried the news of their ruin faster than a speeding bullet. Suddenly, Rodney interjected, his voice flat. The calls stopped coming. Our business associates became ghosts.